Ew.
Here we are live. Welcome back to the Pistons Talk Podcast. I'm about to share with Anthony the worst weekend that belongs in the worst weekends of Hall of Fames. It happened to me. Week started off great. Wednesday rolls around, started to feel like crap. And I'm like, oh, okay. This isn't good. I just thought it was a simple cold. Went and did my game. I broadcast my first high school volleyball game. Went terribly. By the way, that should have been foreshadowing what was going to happen for the weekend. Thursday rolls around. I am feeling like crap. I'm feeling like real crap. I have an interview to get ready for with another high school football coach. That gets canceled. I end up testing positive for COVID. So I miss all of Friday. I miss work all of Saturday. I was supposed to go to the Michigan-Hawaii game on Saturday. It's kind of like it's a birthday tradition for me and my daughter. She gets to go. My girlfriend gets to go. I'm home, stuck in the basement, watching the game. To me, bad things rarely happen, but this was one of the worst weekends I have ever faced in my life. And the crazy thing is, other than the one day of feeling like crap, no symptoms whatsoever, but I tested positive for COVID. And it sucks. I missed everything. The entire weekend got ruined for me. And it's miserable. It's miserable. Hall of Fame belongs in the Hall of Fame for worst weekends.
That sucks.
I mean, it's a little anticlimactic, I guess, because it was just really, I got hit with COVID and had to stay home from a football game that had a rain delay for an hour. So I guess I should see the silver lining. But I don't know. I just really wanted to go, man. I wanted to go watch Michigan, JJ's first start against Hawaii, the Bows. I wanted to see them. I got a Hawaiian basketball shirt on because I actually support the program. So it would have been really cool. But no, I miss it. And thankfully I still get to do the podcast, but it's just been terrible, dude. It's just been terrible. I hate
that blows, man. That really does. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me you had COVID. That fucking sucks.
Yeah, I didn't. No, because I didn't want to say that and we potentially not do the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to because when you hear when someone has COVID, you're like, dude, they're not going to be up for it, man. They're just going to be out. I'm not even going to push it. I've been in those situations where I'm like, better not push if they want to do anything. I'll just let it go. It's whatever. So yeah. I didn't want to say anything and you'd be like, hey, well, it's okay if we just pass on it. Because then if I share that with my family, they're like, oh, you're not doing it. Let's just plan something. And then I'm torn. I'm being pulled in two different directions. So I'd rather keep it a secret and just play it safe.
Yeah, I mean, my weekend wasn't that bad, but I'm just I'm mentally and physically exhausted from just working all week personally. So if I'm a little low energy, I do apologize. You could probably mess with me and I probably wouldn't say anything back. That's how mentally exhausted I am just from this week.
No, it's all good, man. I'm not going to mess with you. And I'm going to try not to cough into the microphone either, but this is a basketball podcast. More importantly, it's a Pistons podcast. So we're going to get talking about the Basketball Hall of Fame and the new class that came in. So you have Tim Hardaway, Manu Ginobili, Swin Cash, Bob Huggins, Del Harris, Lindsey Wallin, Mariana Stanley, Teresa Shank Grant, and George Karl are all enshrined into the Basketball Hall of Fame. I don't know about you guys, but I hate the Basketball Hall of Fame. I think it is the worst Hall of Fame in all of sports. I know it's not the NBA Hall of Fame, and I think the NBA Hall of Fame would actually be worse than the Basketball Hall of Fame. I just hate that basketball feels like they have to include everybody into the Hall of Fame. Even when guys were what is wrong with us just saying, hey, that guy had a good career? Why do we got to put these guys in the Hall of Fame?
There's so many Hall of Fames. They have the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame where I believe Chauncey Billups made it. I want to say Bill Laimbeer. I'm not 100% sure, but there's so many Hall of Fames to the point when I saw this in the prep sheet, I'm like, wait, did they already have the NBA Hall of Fame? I don't remember there being an announcement, but you're like, no, it's just, the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's just dude, I can't keep up. Unless it's the NBA Hall of Fame, I guess I don't care.
Well, I would like for them to have an NBA Hall of Fame because I feel like the Basketball Hall of Fame sucks. And I mean, let me take that back. I think the Basketball Hall of Fame sucks when it comes to including NBA players. And I hate that the NBA includes everything from a person's basketball career, from like high school and college. I don't like that. Like, just keep it NBA numbers and that's it. Basketball Hall of Fame should be everything else. But then it got me thinking, like, what former Pistons that maybe they didn't play for a long time in Detroit that have a chance at making the Hall of Fame? And the one name that I come up with is Blake Griffin. Like, do you think Blake Griffin is a Hall of Famer at all?
I think if you go by the numbers, yeah, he'll probably make it.
See, I have to disagree with that. I don't think Blake Griffin is a Hall of Fame player, even by the numbers. I think Hall of Fame talent, but I think the numbers and what he did in the NBA, and really just like the whole of basketball of the entirety of his career is not that good, is not like Hall of Fame worthy. Like, I don't look at his numbers and look at him and be like, all right, Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I just think when you kind of look at his whole body of work, like outside of Detroit, like, being a high pick, kind of making the Clippers relevant in the sense where if you watch basketball and you've been, watching basketball for at least the past 10, 15 years, I mean, the Clippers have been relevant, but if you go back, they really weren't. And I think you kind of have to look at that standpoint when you're looking at credentials to make the Hall of Fame. I think he's a guy that came into the league that was just a high flyer and dunker, and he kind of evolved his game later in his career with the Clippers and with the Pistons. I think if you just look at the numbers, he's not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I think he will make the Hall of Fame eventually. I just don't know when.
He's just not. It's like Chris Bosh being inducted in. I don't think that Chris Bosh was a Hall of Famer. Like, I hate it. That's why I hate the Basketball Hall of Fame. I wish they had a separate one where it was the NBA Hall of Fame. It'd be a much smaller Hall of Fame, but I feel like it would mean more than just like, I just feel like the Basketball Hall of Fame just puts everybody in it. Like, they just don't care. Like, I want to look back on the Hall of Fame, like, yeah, that dude was a legitimate Hall of Fame player, had a legitimate Hall of Fame career. And I don't feel like Blake Griffin. And we can go down. I have another name, Rasheed Wallace. You think he's an NBA basketball Hall of Famer?
See, you're just proving my point. They put anyone in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But like,
you could put Rasheed in the Hall of Fame if you wanted to. You could make a case for Rasheed Wallace being in the Hall of Fame before he was with the Pistons, when he was with the Blazers. The Blazers, at the time, they were kind of, a top team in the Western Conference. I mean, they ran into Shaq and Kobe. I mean, one of the best duos in NBA history. But Rasheed Wallace, I mean, if you want to look at his numbers, are not that impressive, but you have to look at championships, body of work, what he contributed. And like that's my whole point when I said I think Blake Griffin could possibly make the Hall of Fame, is because you don't really have to do a whole lot to get there.
So here's another test that I do for myself. Like, I think of like all time drafts, and I'm looking at like the guys are in the Hall of Fame. Like, what round do we get to before Blake Griffin gets drafted, and then before Rasheed Wallace gets drafted? Like, how many players go before them that we can say are actual Hall of Famers? That's kind of one of my tests for myself. Like, if they're not going, like if I can think of like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 names ahead of them, are they really a Hall of Famer? Are they really that great that I can pick? There's like at least 10 or more players in front of them that I would pick over them. I just think the Hall of Fame kind of sucks. And I completely forgot that there was a new class coming in, and it was led by Manu Ginobili and Tim Hardaway and Swin Cash. But I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of, I guess for me, I'm just over the Basketball Hall of Fame. Being sick has made me think about this a lot lately.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think the reason why people don't like really get too hyped about it is because it's kind of like they kind of let anybody in. Like, I was doing some research on my phone a minute ago. I mean, they let the Raptors superfan into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke.
Like the NFL Hall of Fame, for example, I think it's more prestigious in terms 100%. Of like, they just don't let anybody in. Like, Kelvin Johnson just got in, right? Barry Sanders is in. Like, they take it more seriously, and I think the NBA is trying to just like, you had a good career. we're going to let you in the Hall of Fame. I think if they didn't let every single person in the Hall of Fame, maybe people would take it more seriously.
Yeah, I got two final thoughts. One is there's actually a movement to get Antoine Jameson into the NBA Hall of Fame. Like, it's a small movement. I've seen it online where people are like, he had over 20,000 points. He had almost 10,000 rebounds. And you're like, dude, it's Antoine Jameson. He's not a basketball Hall of Famer. He's a really good player. He's just you're not putting him on an all-time team. Like, you're not.
So to my point, do you think the analytics in the NBA has ruined how we perceive stats and how people perceive kind of like awards and being inducted to the Hall of Fame?
I think people look at the numbers too much when it comes to Hall of Famers, and they rely less on like the eye test, and they should really try to put, like, if it's a numbers thing, like in the baseball Hall of Fame, like once you hit certain numbers, I believe they're like, okay, that's a Hall of Fame player. Like, I feel like there should be something in the NBA, like there has to be a cutoff. We have to find the one player that we consider the worst person in the Hall of Fame and be like, okay, that's the cutoff. Like, if you're worse than him by the eye test and by the numbers and everything, then yeah, you can't be in the Hall of Fame. Like, they need to figure something out like that.
Yeah, so I was just thinking it from like analytics to me, I think are helpful, but at the same time, you kind of have people saying, "Oh, well, his Purdy 36 has 18 points a game." I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, seriously, like I remember when Stanley Johnson was a rookie, and you have all these analytic nerds like, well, his per 36, he's averaging 24 points a game. I'm like, well, he's not playing 36 minutes. Like, shut up.
No, and I wanted to make one final point what you were saying about the NFL Hall of Fame with Calvin Johnson. So, like, Rod Smith has comparable numbers to Calvin Johnson, but the NFL knows when it comes to Hall of Fame, Calvin Johnson was a Hall of Fame player on the field. And that's no disrespect to Rod Smith. I loved Rod Smith, the undrafted wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. He had great numbers, technically Hall of Fame numbers by their standards. But the NFL does a great job of recognizing and separating the Hall of Fame talent from the guys with the good numbers. Like, I just wish the Basketball Hall of Fame was better about it. And that's probably the end of my rant.
Yeah, same here.
All right, we can move on. So next up, we have news. On the news segment of the podcast, we'll bring up some headlines you might have missed during the week. We'll share our thoughts if we have any. If we don't, we'll just move on. All right, so the Pistons released their 2022-2023 statement jerseys. James Edwards released the news on this. And I'll be honest with you, I have mixed feelings about the statement jerseys. I like the colors. They fit together. But the city jerseys last year, they felt more like a statement. But what are your feelings on the new jerseys?
So I think every year I hate the jerseys, like as a consumer, because I kind of look at other teams and I kind of look at our design team. And I was talking with some buddies at work. I'm like, the Pistons design team reminds me of the kid in the group project that would put his name on it. Because like the lack of creativity that we have that are creating our jerseys, it's concerning. Like, they remind me of the Milwaukee Bucks jerseys from a few years ago. Like, very similar, very same design. I mean, they did the same thing with the Nuggets jerseys where they had like, it was like a circle and it had like it's a Detroit, Michigan on it. It's just like they need to start letting fans create these jerseys, because I think most fans have very good jersey concepts, and I think that makes more money for the team. But overall, like, I would probably give it like maybe a 7 out of 10. I have to see it in person first.
So don't they reminded me of another team's jersey too. I kept thinking of Atlanta because Atlanta did the ATL on the front. I just looked them up. They're a little bit different, but it kind of feels the same. And I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like the Detroit Pistons do a terrible job of trying to, because they always talk about being like, we're going to try to like put the city on the jersey. You know what I'm saying? We're going to try to capture what it likes to be, to live in the, the heart of Detroit. And they do a terrible job of it. Like, it's just, like I said, I love the colors. I just hate how they all, and like, I mean, the colors fit together. I just don't like the overall fit of the jersey. It just reminds me of a second-rate jersey, like a G League jersey or even a practice jersey. And I feel like if you're calling them your statement jerseys, they need to make a bigger and better statement than what that is. Like, I felt like those city jerseys were perfect last year, and I kind of wish they got to wear those more and more. Do you think we were spoiled by the city jerseys, though? Is that why we both feel like these jerseys are trash?
I think it's just a lack of effort, and I don't know if anyone saw the Pistons kind of released this like video they made. Apparently, some guy left them a voicemail. That's what they're saying. I mean, they probably could have just had some random guy on the that follows them make like a fake voicemail. Honestly, because I doubt they listen to phone calls. Because like, yeah, we need toughness. We need to bring back the bad boy mentality, the Detroit mentality. When I look at that jersey, you know what I see? Looks like a Pepsi Max edition of a Pistons jersey, bro. Like, what is that?
Wow. That is perfect. The Pepsi Max Detroit Pistons jersey.
Pepsi, sponsor us. Let's put a little, instead of UWM, put Pepsi.
Oh my, that's perfect. That is perfect. Yeah, what's the number that you call to leave a voicemail?
I have no idea.
If we ever get it, we should just put it at the bottom of the YouTube screen and just have it flicker the entire time.
Like when I heard that, I was like, dude, there's no damn way.
Yeah.
That they are listening to voicemails for jersey inspiration. There's no way. Like if you're doing that as a design team, you need to look for a new job.
Yeah, that is
like, simple as that. I mean, like look at all the NBA's teams' jersey, man. They're so unique. They're artistic. It's just like our jerseys. Like everyone's like, oh, we're getting 5 new jerseys. I'm like, well, the teals are coming back. That'll probably be the best jersey this year. Love the home whites. Love the red blues. I'm like cringing over the Big Sean jerseys because I don't know what it's going to be. And I really hope it's not gray.
It's probably going to be gray. Or, well, let me just say this too. How insulting is it to the city of Detroit and the people that live in Detroit that your inspiration came from a fucking voicemail? Like, dude, out of all of the great things the city has to offer, the Detroit Pistons were like, you know what? This voicemail, this is the inspiration we needed. Why not just take the jersey and just have the guy's most quotable parts of the voicemail just be on the jersey? Just like Detroit Pistons number, these jerseys suck. Like that's just across it. I give me something else other than Pepsi Max colors, even though I did like the color scheme.
Yeah, I like the color scheme, but I think what bothers me is like the DET is not even centered. It's like off to the left.
Yes, that's why I think I think the Atlanta Hawks do have a jersey where like the ATL is like over there. I don't know. It just reminded me of ATL, and I understand like teams are going to steal from each other, but again, it's the city of Detroit. Like there's so many great things about the city of Detroit, and we get the worst jerseys, and they're inspired by voicemails, which may not even be real.
Yeah, they're probably fake voicemails. I mean, I swear. I mean, because I run a media page, dude, I get tagged in these really cool concepts. Like, if they were more involved in social media, I guarantee you they would probably have some of the most fire jerseys that we could possibly see in the NBA. But, like, they're so out of touch with the fan base that they come up with the red and blue racing stripes. They come up with the chrome jerseys. They come up with the don't even get me started. And then people are pissed over the Jordan logo on it. It's just like, bro, every statement jersey has a Jordan logo on it.
That is Jordan, though. Is that Jordan kind of winning the rivalry over the bad boys in a way? That it's on the Pistons jersey.
I think more Pistons fans are pissed off about it than any other team. They're like, oh yeah, it's a statement jersey. It's got a Jordan logo on it. Pistons fans are like, dude, I don't want to see Jordan anything anywhere.
You know what would have been a better statement for Detroit? If they all walk out on to the court in unison, just grab the Jordan patch and rip it off. That would be more of a statement than the jerseys.
I'm going like this with a Sharpie.
Yeah.
Put a little Isaiah Thomas little patch, like right there. Yes. Like, screw that, bro.
That'd be great. No, man, what else was I going to say about these jerseys? Oh, you know what else was great? Who'd ever designed those Slim Shady jerseys, those M&M ones? Dude, get that guy design jerseys. Those are pretty cool. I like those ones. You know which ones I'm talking about?
Yeah, because the Pistons, they couldn't hide the teal. I remember it was a Bleacher Report thing because I was going to buy some, and then I saw the price, and I'm like, hey, yeah, no.
Yeah, they're like $300.
Yeah, I think like the jersey was like 185. I'm like, okay, I have $185. I said, but do I really want to spend it on the jersey when I have no food in my house? Like, I gotta go grocery shopping.
Yeah, there are decisions, and that's an adult move by you, Anthony, taking
Yeah.
food over the jersey. But like, I thought those Slim Shady jerseys were pretty cool, and I don't know, like if you're right, like if fans are coming up with some of the most creative jerseys for the Pistons, and the design team for Detroit just keeps shitting the bed on these jerseys that they're releasing to us.
I don't get it, man. I mean, like even on Twitter, like if you're on Twitter, like some people are always coming up with concepts. Like you can literally like probably reach out to the person that made them and said, "Hey, we like your concept. We want to make it into a jersey." I guarantee you, the person that made that concept would probably be so damn happy. And I think the fans would like it too.
Yeah, and you probably don't even have to pay them. Just like, hey, we'll make your jersey, we'll say who it is, and you get a jersey from us with every player signed it. That'd be really cool. I think that'd be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a hater when the jerseys come out. Like I always say, they're ugly. Then I see them in person and they grow on me. Like I remember the red ones last year when they got leaked, dude. I'm like, bro, these are trash. And then I fell in love with them right away.
See, the moment those got leaked, I was like, oh my God, these are the dopest Pistons jerseys. Why can't these be the full-time jerseys? Like I loved them immediately.
You know what my favorite alternative jersey is of like all time?
Which one's that?
The old classic red jerseys. Right, this said Pistons
Yeah.
across, and it had like the blue letter. It was like so simplistic. Like I remember, I think I was like 13 or 14. I still have a Chauncey Billups red one in my closet. It's one of my favorite jerseys that I've ever bought.
Yeah, those ones are really nice. I really like those ones as well. There's something about the red that just has Detroit or the Pistons across it.
Mm-hmm.
It just looks really cool. It really does. Kemba Walker is still with the Detroit Pistons. James Edwards took an educated guess and says that Kemba Walker is still with the Detroit Pistons because no other team has shown any interest in him. Kemba Walker still with the Pistons. None of us have a clue what is going on. Is Kemba Walker over the hill?
Yeah, I think he is. I think if you watched any type of New Year Knicks game, like outside of being a Piston fan, and you like watched him, you're like, this guy's a shell of himself.
Oh, yeah.
I think all of those knee injuries that he had, I think that one injury that he had in Boston, I think that was where, the writing was kind of on the wall. And I did read James Edwards' piece. It was very interesting that he did put that out because he's not really a type of person to speculate. Like when you read his articles, you're kind of like, okay, he knows something. There's something going on. So if he's saying that the Pistons may not have an option with him to get bought out, then Pistons may just have to eat that $9 million and just let him sit at home.
Yeah, it's not the 9 million's not what I'm so worried about. Like right now, I'm just so concerned for Kemba Walker. Like, I don't care that he's on the Pistons. I just wish he could contribute in a way. Like, I mean, I guess I don't really, I don't know. I just wish he could contribute, man. It kind of stinks to see him go from a multiple time all-star because, like, that slope for some of these guards is just so, like, you got to make your money, man. You got to make your mark on the NBA when you're a 6'1" or under guard immediately. Like, you just got such a short shelf life before everything just drops off. We've seen it time and time and time again, and it's happening with Kemba Walker. So you're in the school of thought that the Pistons will keep him and just let him collect checks at home?
Yeah, like I think if you kind of look at the situation, like we all heard the reports when the trade came in that the Pistons and Kemba Walker are going to agree with the buyout, which usually buyouts, they take maybe 2 to 3 weeks at the time when the trade comes out. But we're recording this on September 11th, and the trade was during the summer, and there's still no deal. So I think that the two parties can't agree on a figure. Obviously, the Pistons want to give him a certain amount that we don't know. Kemba wants probably the full $9 million. So I think the Pistons may just say, hey, stay at home. We'll eat the $9 million, and you can go play somewhere else.
So, you know how like Troy Weaver has that reputation of being a player's guy, and we've seen over his short time in Detroit, he'll be bringing guys in and he'll buy them out. Do you think that's ultimately like can hurt Troy Weaver in a way, like having that reputation that maybe other GMs can be like, all right, we have a chance, like, we have a chance to kind of mess with this guy a little bit. So we're going to offer him a larger contract knowing he's going to buy it out, but we know the market for this guy and nobody else wants him. So the Pistons are just going to eat some money.
I mean, you could look at it from that standpoint because since Troy's gotten here, you kind of look at the dead cap space, and there's always seems to be a guy that's not on the team that's eating salary. I think from Troy's standpoint, he's still kind of in that rebuilding mode. Now, if the Pistons were a contending team, I don't think he would take on a contract like a Dwayne Dedman and just have it on the books for a few years. I think the Kemba Walker deal was because they could try to get Jalen Duren in that 3-team trade with whatever with Charlotte. But I do think that the two parties thought that they had a deal, but maybe it's an agent getting involved. Maybe Kemba wants that full $9 million, but I mean, I don't think it's a detriment on Troy Weaver's resume at all. I think Troy is just trying to do the best he can with the limited salary cap that he did have. I mean, this is probably the first year where he had a lot of salary to play with.
This is true. So back to Kemba, though. Do you think it would be wise of the Pistons maybe to play him in preseason to see maybe like if his play is back and maybe he can drum up some interest and maybe they could get this buyout working? Because I don't see a trade happening with Kemba Walker. I think either he sits and collects checks or he just gets bought out at some point.
I don't even think he steps a foot in Detroit.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think he's just going to chill at home. Now, if he was that desperate to, try to get traded to a contender, then yeah, by all means. But I mean, he's making $9 million regardless this year, so he's probably just going to chill at home. I mean, Troy Weaver doesn't kind of seem like the type of GM to, go to his house and say, hey, like if you want that $9 million, you better play. He's just kind of like doing right. Like when we traded for DeAndre Jordan, we automatically put him on the dead cap space. Like he's not forcing guys to play when he trades for them. So I think Kemba Walker's probably just going to chill at home and collect this check for this year, and then he'll be off the books going into next summer.
Will you buy a Kemba Walker jersey like in teal, even if he never plays?
Yeah, but better odds of me buying a Corey Joseph jersey in teal than a Kemba Walker jersey.
Oh, that's even a better question. Who's a better basketball player right now, Corey Joseph or Kemba Walker? It's got to be Corey Joseph, right?
Oh, it's Corey Joseph. He can move.
Yeah,
it's just like people look at the name and they think of, the 30 points a game all-star he was in Charlotte, but they obviously haven't followed his career over the past couple of years. I mean, he's like a shell of himself. Like I don't even think he could probably play a back-to-back game right now.
Yeah, and that's, again, man, that's so sad. Like, Kemba Walker was such a fun player to watch. If you watched him at UConn, for sure, and then if you watched him in the early to middle parts of his time in Charlotte, he was a fun, explosive player, man. I remember a lot of people thought that was the worst pick the Charlotte Hornets could have made at that time with Kemba because, he's an undersized guard. They had drafted DJ Augustine a few years before that. Things didn't pan out. And Kemba Walker, he's a volume scorer that, had bad efficiency, but he turned into be a multiple-time All-Star for Charlotte. So, but again, just sad to see him become a shell of his former self.
Yeah, I mean, I'm messing with some people in the YouTube chat thread because they're saying package Kemba, Olynyk, Kojo in the well and get Russell Westbrook.
Why do you?
Outside, so I'm gonna block you, man. Like, don't even play.
Dude, there's a lot of love for Russell Westbrook to Detroit, man. There's a lot of love. Dude, let him just go. There needs to be a team for guys like him where there just has to be a team, no chance of winning. They only care about the playoffs. They're kind of like a no man's land team, probably be in Albuquerque, New Mexico or something. That seems like no man's land for guys like Russell Westbrook that are past their prime, but still want to put up an inefficient 17, 9, and 8. There needs to be a team for guys like Russell Westbrook, and Detroit is not that destination.
I mean, I thought of two right off the top of my head.
What two teams?
Charlotte and New York.
Well, Charlotte, though, they got LaMelo. They're not taking Russell Westbrook. But that would be funny, though. Once they lose LaMelo, they might go after Russell Westbrook after that.
I mean, there were reports of him actually getting traded there because he's got a relationship with Jordan because he's a Jordan shoe athlete.
Dude, Charlotte will. Maybe you're right. Maybe Charlotte is no man's land because they're not winning anything for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I feel bad for Westbrook, but at the same time, it's just like you're stuck with them.
You definitely are. Let's talk about our franchise player, though, Cade Cunningham.
All right.
Is this the year Cade starts heading to the foul line? Now, we've talked about it on a couple podcasts, and we were predicting his stats for the season. We never, like, we've seen Cade just get attacked a ton his rookie year and just not go to the line. I think he had 20 or 21 games without a free throw attempt, second most in the past 10 years by a number one overall pick. Only Anthony Bennett has more games played as in his rookie year without a foul attempt. But do you think Cade should start selling the calls a little bit more? Do you think he needs to take some acting classes in Los Angeles to learn how to sell those fouls?
I don't think he has to, honestly. I think anytime you're a rookie in the league, right? Excuse me, you do not get foul calls. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, even LeBron James, his rookie year, he was getting fouled and he wasn't getting calls. I mean, the referees kind of have to grow rapport with you over time. Now, they're going to get to know Cade Cunningham very well because he's going to be in the lane a ton. He's going to be using his frame to try to get more foul calls, and he looks yoked this summer, man. It looks like he's been hitting the gym hard. He says he's a vegan, but I don't know, man. I mean, he looks pretty damn swole.
It's all that peanut butter, that protein.
Literally, I do think he is going to get to the free throw line at least, I'm going to say 4 to 5 times a game this season because I think he's going to demand the respect out of the referees, and he's just going to force their hand. Kind of like when Blake Griffin was here. I mean, Blake Griffin had his problem with the referees, but he was still getting to the free throw line like 7, 8 times a game. I don't think that Cade Cunningham can't do the same thing as Blake Griffin was when he was here in Detroit.
So how many times do you think LeBron James went to the free throw line his rookie year?
3 times a game?
Oh, no. So he went to the line about 6 times per game for 460 attempts his rookie year. Cade Cunningham, I just want to because I looked this up with Cade, and I believe it was under 200 for his rookie year. So his rookie year for total free throw attempts for the season, 168.
Wow.
That is a huge difference. And I understand LeBron James's game is different than Cade Cunningham's, but Cade has been compared to LeBron James. I just think it wasn't just about, the refs not having a reputation or knowing Cade at all. I just think it was, I don't even know what it was. Like, it felt like the whole league, the media, everybody was against Cade his rookie year.
Yeah, and then this is where I know fans are going to go and run with it, and they're going to say, well, Detroit versus everybody. And it's kind of hard to argue their standpoint when you just read me those numbers. I mean, a guy of his caliber going to the lane, getting bullied, getting slapped upside the head. I mean, getting tossed out of a game for pointing at a Phoenix Suns player. Like, the referees were on some pure bullshit when it did come to Cade Cunningham last year. Now, I do hope that he does get more respect. And I think, over time, the refs will kind of give him that superstar treatment like they do other players. But, I mean, those numbers are alarming, though.
He needs to take acting classes. I'm telling you, man. He needs to learn to sell these fouls. Like,
I don't need him being like Lance Stevenson. Like blowing in people's ears and flopping and crap like that. Like,
no, not flopping. Just when you're driving the lane and you get a little tap on your arms, just sell it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and yes, I did just try to make a selling the foul call on the YouTube video, but that's what Cade needs to do. Then it got me thinking as we were talking about this, because LeBron James was like a huge star coming in when he was drafted. And the NBA wanted to sell him. Like, there's no doubt about that. They wanted to make him the face of the NBA. They're like, dude, he is going to get superstar treatment from the get-go. Do you think that the NBA and the reason Cade Cunningham didn't go to the line was because the NBA doesn't want a face of the NBA playing in Detroit? Because
Oh,
it's not
absolutely.
a market.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, let's say he went to Houston, for example, right? Let's say Cade Cunningham is in Houston. Really good storyline. He's from Texas. I think he goes to the line more. I think the NBA is in Houston almost every night. I think there's more marketability with him being in a different market outside of Detroit. Um, it's just like when you talk to Detroit fans about Cade Cunningham, that they'll go to you like, dude, it's the same shit. Detroit versus everybody. Like the NBA has a conspiracy theory against us. Like people say they're still punishing us from the malice at the palace. And they really they could be. They really well could be. But when you look at those numbers, what was it, 164 free throw attempts, and
168 to 460.
that's ridiculous, dude. Like I'm sorry. I know like he did have the ankle injury and he wasn't, going inside the lane as much, but he should have at least had 250 in my opinion. Because there were some nights he was just getting whacked.
Like I said, 20 or 21 games without a free throw attempt and playing well over 25 minutes a game. I was comparing him to Anthony Bennett, and Anthony Bennett had a ton of games where he didn't go to the free throw line because he was playing like only 8 minutes a game. But they're basically saying that Cade Cunningham is closer to Anthony Bennett than he is LeBron James when you share the free throw numbers. It's terrible and it's despicable. And if you're a small market team like Detroit, and I hate even saying that, you have to go against the NBA, where the NBA is basically saying, like, dude, we're not giving your franchise player, Cade Cunningham, we're not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. So the NBA is basically pushing Cade Cunningham out of Detroit. That's how I look at it. The NBA is making it a point to get Cade out of Detroit. Like, we're not going to let you go to the foul line unless you're out of Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, like even when Blake got traded here, I mean, I remember him pulling out tablets, showing referees, like, hey, like he missed his foul call. Like even Blake spoke on it a little bit. Like when he got to Detroit, he said that whistle wasn't the same when I was in LA. Like it's an actual thing, and like I'm not like drinking the Detroit versus everybody Kool-Aid, but I mean, like you have to acknowledge that Detroit sports teams don't get the same whistle as teams outside of Michigan. It's just a thing, but I'm not going to complain about it. I think if we play better, we don't have to rely on the referee to bail us out.
Yeah, but that just puts so much more pressure on the teams. Like you got to play damn near a perfect game just to have a chance of winning. And perfection is impossible in sports. It's basically the NBA and I guess professional sports are saying, superstars, you come to die in Detroit. That's what it feels like. It happened to Blake Griffin's probably going to happen to Cade Cunningham. And yeah, we'll just have to live with it. Hopefully we do better though. But I already mentioned Cade had 168 free throw attempts, over under 168 free throw attempts for Jaden Ivey this year. Do you think Jaden Ivey gets a better whistle than Cade Cunningham?
That's a good one. I think Jaden Ivey will have over because I think he's more of an explosive athlete. I think part of his game is predicated on attacking the basket. So I think he's going to be around 200.
I would agree with that. I think that the whistle won't come for Jaden Ivey early in his career, like the first few games, like first like 10 or 20 or whatever. But the way he plays, it's going to be a wake-up call to the NBA refs. Like, okay, he's more explosive. He has some highlight plays. He's an exciting player. We got to get him to the foul line. Like, we have to, because it would be more blatant if they didn't call it on Jaden Ivey just because of the way he plays. Like, you can get away with it not calling it on Cade because he's not as explosive and doesn't play above the rim. But when you got a guy like Jaden Ivey, doesn't matter if he's a rookie or not, that whistle better come.
Pause.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, I think that Jaden Ivey will not have a problem going to the free throw line because he plays really fast and the refs will probably say like, "Wow, that guy got hit. Like we're gonna blow the whistle." I think, Jay, like you said, if you're an athletic player,
A little bit
then
more reckless, not as controlled.
yeah, like he's not as polished as Cade in the sense where Cade is very slow and methodical on how he does things. Where Jaden Ivey, when you kind of saw it in the summer league, where sometimes he just goes too fast and the game hasn't slowed down for him yet. And I think that's where he can kind of get bailed out by the refs with getting foul calls. But I'm not too overly concerned with Jaden Ivey getting a foul call because I know that whistle is going to be getting blown left and right.
By the way, this should be a poll for like your Twitter and your Instagram. See if people over under on 168 free throw attempts for Jaden Ivey. But I got a question for you, just as a basketball fan,
Okay.
and people that are watching the YouTube clips. You can feel free to like throw your comments because I want to hear what your guys' thoughts on this question is too. And for people that are listening to the audio version, feel free to DM me because I want to hear your thoughts on this as well. But do you think the NBA is better when guys are allowed to be more physical than when, we had a few years where it seemed like you breathed on a guy, they went to the free throw line? Like, are you more in favor with the game being more physical, like it's trending towards, or did you like it the other way a few years ago?
I liked more physical because it felt like even if you slap the guy's wrist while he was shooting, it's a foul.
Yep.
Like I remember watching the NBA Finals a few years ago with LeBron and Golden State and Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green. They didn't really allow them to play as physical as probably they wanted to, but I think most fans like more of the physical type of basketball. Like I grew up with no hand check era. Like growing up, like you could be really physical with your when you were playing defense, right? Now it's like if you step on their foot, the Zaza rule with Kawhi. If you hit their wrist while they're shooting, that's a foul. Sometimes there's foul calls and no one even does anything. It's just I think if you're trying to market the NBA, like trying to reach like more fans, I think more fans kind of like the more physical style of play.
I like the more physical style of play. Like I like when guys can kind of bump each other. They can, they can push a little bit. I don't want 80s physical. Like I don't want guys being close at a fast break. Like that was just stupid. I hate when people point to that era and be like, this was basketball. This is when you knew when men were men. It's like, dude, okay, just knock it off. It's a stupid way of playing basketball. I hate it. You go watch slam ball if you want to see guys get clothesline at the rim. Go watch that sport.
They're bringing that back, actually.
I enjoyed it, but it belonged in slam ball. That type of physical. But in the NBA, I just want it to be like, I want it to be a little bit more physical. I hated the rules where, guys driving the line, he just throws his arms up, not even in an actual shooting motion, and just heads to the free throw line. I hated that era of the NBA. So I'm more excited. Like I can live with Cade Cunningham being attacked. Just send him to the line a few more times. Like I'm not saying send him to the line like you did to James Harden when he was in Houston. Just be fair to Cade, just let him go to the free throw line 6 to 8 times a game. That's fair enough and still be physical. I think that's fair that we can have that.
I mean, they even made rule changes last year for James Harden and Trae Young.
Yeah, I know. And I loved it
because they knew how to manipulate the rule.
Yeah.
In terms of like, if someone's behind me, I'm just going to kind of put my back out and try to get a foul call.
Yep.
And I think that's, like you said, the NBA is kind of going towards more physical play style. And I think that's the right move personally for the game and for the fans. I mean, I don't want to go to a game and someone breast stinks and you freaking, blow the whistle. Like straight up, man. Like I like physical type of play when I'm watching basketball.
So I do too. The physical play, it's coming back. You know who's not going to see physical play in Detroit, though, is Stephen A. Smith. We got to talk about this. Yeah, I know. Dude, you brought it up to me. I didn't even know how to talk about this, but I'm glad you brought it to me because it is kind of challenging in a way. But, dude, Stephen A. Smith, man, before the whole thing that he's not impressed with Cade, he says, I've always loved the city. It's just that your team stinks. That's not my fault. What do you even say to Stephen A. Smith, like as a fan or just as a person growing up in Detroit? Like, you love my city, but you don't want to visit my city because my basketball team stinks. How do you love my city then? Like, if Stephen A. really loved the city of Detroit, I think he would talk it up a little bit, right? Not seemed like he hated going to it when he had to come here for games.
Yeah, when I kind of look at ESPN personality like Stephen A. Smith, I kind of have to think of it like I have to take my Detroit fandom off for a second and kind of see his optics of it. Like, I think he's right in a sense where you can love the city of Detroit, but the teams stink, and he's right. I mean, the last championship that we won in the city of Detroit was 2008, and that was the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, but
Like,
it's just such a cop out to say you love the city, but you don't like. But our team just stinks. Like, dude, it doesn't make any sense. I don't. I feel like those two, like the whole "I love the city" doesn't need to be said. Or like,
yeah,
yeah, man, I love the city of Detroit. It stinks that we don't get to be there more often. You know what I'm saying? You could have said it that way without insulting, like us as fans and everything like that. Like, yeah, we know the Pistons stunk.
yeah. I mean,
We knew that. We didn't need to be told that.
you have to remember, like, I bet you he's probably watched maybe a handful of Detroit sports games, probably over the last 8 years or so. So it's probably really hard for him to have like a straight opinion on Detroit sports. Like, we look at our teams from the Tigers, the Red Wings, the Lions, and the Pistons, and we'll watch every game. We'll support them. We're sickos like that. We get drunk watching Lions games. It's just like Ford Field was sold out like for the first time. I think they said since like 2017. Like, you could only stand. Like, that's how bad it was at Ford Field. Like, there's a lot to love about the city of Detroit, and you don't really need this huge media personality kind of giving you his thoughts about it, because we live here, we consume it, and we probably know more about our sports teams than he does because he's more on a national scale, and he probably saw Cade maybe one or two times last year, and maybe Cade had a bad game, and that's his opinion of him.
Do you remember when Cade had what game was that? He had I think it might have been against Cleveland, and they were talking about the game, but they never showed any Cade highlights. Or was that? And it was like Candace Parker. I believe she was like talking on NBA
Yeah,
TV. I don't know if it was against Cleveland, but
yeah, it was against the Nuggets.
Okay, yeah.
And he had like 34 points. He had like a stat line that hasn't been done in over 50 years or something like that, right?
Yes.
And just like, we didn't play any Cade Cunningham highlights. So it kind of shows you how the national media's perspective is of the city of Detroit. And that's why fans are like, you know what? Detroit versus everybody. They don't give a shit about us. They're like, screw ESPN, screw all these media outlets. We know how good our athletes are.
Do you think when they're coming up, like the NBA is coming up with the national schedule, that they talk to guys like Stephen A. Smith and be like, hey, we're going to put Detroit here at a game we'd like for you to be? And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. And maybe they take Detroit off nationally televised the game.
I don't know if it's like that, but I do think that you kind of look at the bigger names in media, like a Mike Breen, for example, that does, New York Knicks commentary. He doesn't anymore. He's retired. But I mean, Mark Jackson, like, I don't think Mark Jackson has ever called a Pistons game, like, ever.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
If you think about that, I mean, like, Jeff Van Gundy did a Rockets game, but that's only because he lives in Houston. So it's like you kind of have to think of it from that perspective. I mean, the only media guy that we used to have in Detroit, God rest his soul, Stuart Scott. Stuart Scott would probably love to call Pistons games.
This is true. Cool as the other side of the pillow, man.
Yep.
Man. Let's get into this other part about Stephen A. Smith, because you put up there, he's not impressed with Cade Cunningham. Here's the quote from Samuel J. Robinson. He says, this is his tweet, Stephen A. Smith on Cade Cunningham ahead of his sophomore season. He's got skill. He's still got to improve his shot. I think he's still got to improve that motor because the game is faster. The athletes are better, but he clearly belongs in the league. That is a man that has never watched Cade Cunningham play basketball, right?
It's a casual cover my ass quote saying that I haven't really watched Cade Cunningham, but the media's here, so let me give you a little sound bite. Kind of to my point where, like, I bet you Stephen A. Smith has maybe watched 2 Detroit Pistons games all year last year because people are probably talking about Cade. So he probably piqued his interest, and then he watched them and he had a bad game. Like that's what he's kind of giving his opinion on.
Okay, but help me out. He says, I think he's still got to improve that motor because the game. How do you improve the motor of a player? Like, that's just will. That's just. Do you
I
have
don't get that.
do you have him talk to a psychologist or a therapist or a hypnotherapist where it's like, dude, we're going to zone you in. You're going to be playing with more of a motor. It's like, dude, people are just wired differently. Like Pascal and Giannis play like that because like they probably have like hyper energy that they probably need pills to slow themselves down so they're able to channel it on the basketball court. Like that's probably why they play with that motor, but not every player is designed the same way. Cade would be such a worse basketball player if he had like a higher motor, like a Giannis or something. He'd be so out of control and wouldn't even be to his game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people use Cade's motor trying to say like, well, if he had a better motor, he'd be a better basketball player. But I think that's what kind of makes Cade Cunningham, because like he's not the most athletic guy in the gym, but he's gonna beat you. He's gonna, either cross you up, shoot over you, find the extra man in the corner. I think that's what makes Cade Cunningham such a special basketball player. And sometimes the media kind of looks at him being a low motor player as like a negative. I think it's a positive.
See, I think Cade Cunningham, I agree with you. I think it's more of a positive when he plays under control and kind of just allows the game to come to himself. But I think part of the reason Cade gets so much hate from national media people like Stephen A. Smith, it just doesn't get the same love, is because his game is closer to Luka Doncic's than it is Jalen Green's. And I think that's why people they see Cade, they see the number 1 overall player, and they're like, we don't like him because he plays like Luka. I think that's the bigger thing with Cade. Like Cade's game isn't that exciting to other people, so they just want to write him off.
Yeah, I don't understand it personally. Like trying to say that his motor's a reason why he's not a good basketball player when that's just like the farthest thing from the truth. Like, tell me you've never watched Cade Cunningham without telling me you've never watched Cade Cunningham.
It's just, this whole quote is just stupid. The athletes are better, but he clearly belongs in the league, but doesn't say anything why he belongs in the league. It's just just fuck Stephen A. Smith, man. You don't even watch the games. Like, it's almost better if Stephen A. Smith's like, dude, I got no comment. I got to watch that young guy play before I make a comment. I've not been able to assess his game. I have disrespected Cade Cunningham in the city of Detroit and the Detroit Pistons by not watching him, so I'm not going to give you an answer. I would have so much more respect for Stephen A. Smith if he said that than him saying, yeah, his motor's not good, and his shot, it needs to be better. Yeah, there we go. Cade, terrible at basketball because he doesn't have a motor and he needs to improve his shot.
I think I know a reason why Stephen A. Smith may have had that quote. I just remembered it. So when Cade first got drafted last year, I can't remember the media company he was with. It may have been from Wave TV with Buckets, but he said, one of the guys asked him, what celebrity would you want to dunk on? And he chose Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, but dude, but no, I don't know. I think, yeah, but I think Stephen A. Smith likes that because that's more of people just being like, yo, I know he's out there, and that's just saying like they would want to. I feel like Cade's answering it that way is like, I want to dunk on Stephen A., but really it's just like, like if you say you want to dunk on Stephen A., you want to be in the same room with him, like you want to have a conversation with him, type of thing. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm way off pace.
Or you want to dunk on him and embarrass him and say, what slow motor?
I mean, I guess I haven't heard Skip Bayless say anything about Cade Cunningham, but
he did. He did. I remember I think it was a summer league game. And they're like, Detroit made the wrong draft pick. They should have drafted Jalen Green.
I remember this. Yep.
I was like, dude, like what the hell?
I remember this now. Yeah, you're right. That was a dumb thing from Skip Bayless. I don't know. I just think Stephen A. Smith does a terrible job. This is why I wish like they would recycle through the analyst and broadcasters. Because, like, I mean, I definitely value a former player in the color commentating position and like the analyst role and everything. But once the game has moved past you as a player, like you're so far removed that the game you play doesn't look anything like it does today. You can't break the game down anymore as a former player because you're not playing in this version of the NBA. So I feel like they would need to recycle these guys and it'd be better. And then that means Stephen A. Smith's time would be up.
You're 100% right. Like, I think some athletes are really good at what they do in terms of breaking down the game, but other athletes, like you said, have been away from the game for so long. They don't run the Princeton offense anymore. Like, they don't, do what Stan Van Gundy was doing down in Orlando, where, one guy in the post, four shooters. Like, in terms of like Stephen A. Smith's analysis, like, I respect him like as a human being, but I don't take his analyst seriously.
No, neither do I. It's terrible. It's garbage. I mean, dude, like we're saying, we're just going to read this back for you. This is how we will end this to get into the Q&A. He's got skill. He's still got to improve his shot. I think he's still got to improve that motor because the game is faster. The athletes are better, but he clearly belongs in the league. Stephen A. Smith on Cade Cunningham. The most pointless breakdown of a basketball player's game I have ever read and shared on a podcast.
Yeah, that's like when I read that, I was like, either he's just giving someone something to write an article with, he's being nice in that aspect, or he's just like, you know what? I've never watched him before in my life.
When you showed me that and I read it, I threw my phone. That's how mad I was.
I knew once you saw it, I'm like, dude, once he sees this, he's going to be pissed.
I grounded my child after I read that. That's how mad I was at it. I was like, get over here. Get up to your room. You haven't done anything. Stephen A. Smith just made me mad. All your electronics gone for a week. Didn't even know what she did. It's crazy.
Damn.
All because of Stephen A. Smith's tweet or his quote.
Literally. Man, I don't know if people are still watching football, but we do not have any questions so far.
Oh, no. Dang.
Yeah. I
mean, it is week one.
That is true. That is true. I mean, after the Lions, I kind of turned it off.
Do you play fantasy football at all?
I'm one of those people where I auto draft and somehow I win.
Of course.
So I did one 2 years ago where I auto draft and like I had a stacked team and I didn't change anything for a week. And I had like Tom Brady on my bench and like I had like 10 like trade requests, but I never traded them.
You ever do like any fantasy basketball or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Fantasy basketball is more your thing?
I've just been away from it for so long. Like, I know fantasy basketball. I used to do a Roto League, which, man, Roto League is probably the most challenging because you have to like take into account like points scored, rebounds, steals, assists, turnovers. Then, like to me, like if you're a beginner, head to head is probably like the best way to get into fantasy basketball.
Are you talking like fantasy points?
Yeah, so like
you playing that way though.
You like rotisserie league better.
I like the categories where you actually have to try to win the categories over another person. That's more my style because I feel like that's a better way of you're actually able to build a team in fantasy basketball. Because if you're doing fantasy points, it's just so stupid. The reason fantasy points works in fantasy football because usually you only have one guy throwing the ball. You only have like 2 or 3 guys running the ball, and then you only have a handful of guys catching the ball. So you can actually break it. But in basketball, it's not like only a center can block shots and get rebounds. Like everybody can block shots and get rebounds. Everybody can shoot. Everybody can, play. Everybody can steal. Like I just hate fantasy points from that perspective. Because I remember one time I was in a league and my trade was I was offering someone that averaged 19 points per game, fantasy points, plus someone that averaged 14 fantasy points. And I offered those 2 players for Steph Curry, who was only averaging 26 fantasy points. So clearly they were winning the trade, but they're like, no, it's Steph Curry. And I'm like, dude, you're winning the trade though. Like you're getting almost 40 points for 26. Like in any other way, you would automatically accept that trade. That's why I
Yeah.
have fantasy points.
I remember I would be a troll and like get all the 3-point shooters. And then I'm like, oh, you need 3 points. Come my way.
Oh yeah.
Hit
No,
like 25 a night and my points like skyrocket.
I would I always go for like the Swiss Army knives and a couple guys that are like my home run hitters. So I always try to find guys that are like, they might average me like 14 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, and like a steal. I also have my team full of those guys, and then like, like a Steph Curry or a LeBron James or someone like that to round it out.
All right, so we do have a couple questions.
Sweet.
This is from Bravo. He said, which level would you put the Pistons are at in the East? I think we could be better than the Knicks, Wizards, Charlotte, no Bridges. I don't think we're close to the Bulls. They lost Lonzo, so we have a chance.
Which level you put the Pistons at in the East? Like, dude, I don't know, like a 12 or an 11 seed, just based on what I've seen so far, which isn't a lot. But I mean, I'm going by the Nico Hines and going by how the roster does look a lot better compared to last year. So yeah, I'd probably say like 12 or 11. Again, I got to see them play though. I got to see how it all works in an actual NBA game.
Yeah, I think Vegas has them, 5 more wins this year. They have them at like a 27.5.
Yeah, I saw that.
So Vegas is usually pretty spot on. I do think the goal for the season should be playing, but I think you're going to kind of be around that 11, 12 seed just because it's really hard to win in the NBA with a bunch of 20-year-olds. It really is. Not to say that Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey aren't transcendent players, because I do think they are. But at the same time, you need veterans to help you win. And you kind of look at the veterans that we do have. Like, do we really think Alec Burks is going to, lead us to a 6 seed? Probably not. Do we think Nerlens Noel is going to, lock down the paint and average 4 blocks a game? Probably not. So I think you're looking probably at another rebuilding year and another stacked draft class. But I think you're going to have more wins and you're going to see steady improvement and development across the board with all the young guys that we do have on this roster.
I mean, you got to think about it. It's like Milwaukee, Boston, Brooklyn, Cleveland, Toronto.
Yeah.
You got 5 teams right there that are probably going to make the playoffs. And then, just for the Pistons, I would probably say 12 or 11 seed. I know fans hate that, but I mean, dude, it is what it is right now.
Yeah, it's like, if they win like 30 games, I mean, are any of us really mad? No. Like, I know I was scrolling on Twitter and someone simulated the season on their My Player, and they had Victor. I can't say his last name, but
Wembanyama?
Yeah, Wembanyama. I don't know. But they had him on the team, and it's just like you never really know, man. Like I think, obviously, I think Pistons fans are actually getting like really irritated with development and rebuilding. But I mean, unless they make a splash for a player that they really think that can put them over the top, I just don't really see us, being a top 5 seed. Or like if you kind of even look at the Central Division, like Milwaukee's better than us, Chicago's better than us, and the Cavs are better than us. So it's like we're like kind of on the same tier as Indiana right now.
No, I think too, like the question that we're going to be asking ourselves is like, because I feel like the Pistons are eventually going to get in trouble in a few seasons because they have so many young guys that they're going to have to pay, that they're going to have to move on. And I do believe they're not going to look for that guy that puts them over the top, because they believe that Cade will be that guy that puts them over the top. But I don't know. I don't even really know what I'm trying to say right now. I'm just looking, I'm like looking down towards the future because we're talking about all these teams. And I guess I just don't think the Pistons are going to be great this year. I just think they're going to be, I think there's going to be a lot more losses than wins for fans. I think it's going to be another growing year, even though we're all excited that things are going to be different.
Yeah, I think, getting Jaden Ivey at 5, fans should be really excited. But at the same time, I mean, I'm seeing some people saying that he's going to average 20 points a game and win Rookie of the Year. That's just like I would temper my expectations, but you can still be excited about the season. I'm excited about the season. I mean, I'm starving for any kind of basketball content. I can't wait for media day because media day is going to be happening in a few weeks, and we're going to start having preseason basketball. Like basketball is really close, and I know everybody listening, watching, they can't wait for it to be back.
Dude, I'm tweeting about the Lions. That's how much I miss the Pistons right now.
You're a sick motherfucker.
I know. Oh, man.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, like I haven't really like looked into prospects yet, but I will try to get into it. And this is actually a topic I think we should probably do next week because I think both of us will definitely have different brackets. So someone actually wanted us to go through kind of like our play-in predictions, basically, and kind of records for each Eastern and Western Conference. So I think that could be a topic for next week for sure.
I'm down. Yeah, I'm down to do that. I would need a little bit more time. Can you two go through your predictions for next year's playoffs and play? Yeah, I could totally do that. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think next week we'll definitely do that and kind of see if we're complete dumbasses or we can predict the future. So
I think too, well, one of the podcasts coming up, like when we're getting in, because how you predicted Jaden Ivey to be the man last year, we're gonna have to have Anthony's pick for for the top prospect to go to Detroit, because you predicted Jaden Ivey. We'll see if you can do it again. We'll give you, you get to pick a player for us to watch to potentially be a future Piston.
I mean, I could give you one right now.
Oh, who is it?
Scoot Henderson.
I knew it was going to be Scoot Henderson. That's your guy?
Oh, okay. I'll give you another one. Dariq Whitehead.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay.
Out of Duke. I think he's a guy that is going to get a lot of love, but I mean, it's easy to say Scoot Henderson because, like, if you watch any kind of G League highlight, the guy is like so like I said, he's yoked. He's huge already. Like you kind of look at him, he's like what 220 pounds already, and he's like an athletic point guard. But I mean, like I'll definitely be doing some breakdowns and trying to see like who I think that could be on the Pistons radar or a prospect we should all be excited for and possibly maybe we get.
Because you definitely hit the nail on the head with Jaden Ivey. Yeah, Scoot Henderson looks like one of those guys that could have played in the NBA in 8th grade. Like that's just how yoked he is right now. Like he just looks like he had a man's body like at 5. Just unbelievable, man. Unbelievable physique from Scoot Henderson.
Yeah, man. It's definitely when you see a kid like that and you're like, dude, holy shit.
What were you eating growing up, kid? Damn.
Well, if you guys don't have any more questions, I think we can kind of wrap up this podcast because there's literally no Piston news right now. But Lance, why don't you tell the people where they can listen to the podcast and how they can support the audio side of this podcast?
All right. Thank you guys for listening. Do us a favor. Follow me on Twitter at Lance Caprosi. Follow my man, Anthony, the co-host, the brain behind the Pistons Talk podcast at Pistons Talk across all social media platforms. Then do us another favor. Go to Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to the Pistons Talk podcast. Rate us, drop a comment, but more importantly, tell a Pistons fan.
We appreciate you guys so much, and we'll see you next Sunday, hopefully, if Lance isn't still sick. Later, you guys.